Is Acun Ilıcalı actually selling Hull City? Hello there and welcome back to the HullCityFanCentral YouTube channel, where today we're going through the massive latest report coming out from The Athletic surrounding Hull City's owner Acun Ilıcalı, the fact that he might be wanting to sell Hull City, and there's loads more debts still to be paid to various different parties and teams, alongside the latest transfer news updates around the Hull City camp. So let's get straight into it with what is a bit of an upsetting one to start. I mean, it's just going to be a big upsetting one altogether, but an upsetting one. Oli McBurnie is set to not sign with Hull City. Hull City will not be going after Oli McBurnie due to wage demands. It sounds like Oli McBurnie wants more money than Hull City are willing to offer. So it seems like once again, Oli McBurnie is off the board for Hull City. There was also a bit of interest shown in Nahki Wells. Of course, we now know that he has gone on to sign with Luton Town earlier this week. So two targets off the board for Hull City. But Hull City, a little bit of positive news, have placed a bit of interest into Liverpool youngster Lewis Koumas. Of course, Lewis Koumas impressed quite nicely last season on loan at Stoke City. And the interest is mounting from Hull City. Of course, we can't actually actively do anything at the moment because of the appeal process, and Hull City are wanting this appeal process to go right. So there is no sort of solidification on the Lewis Koumas deal. And then, of course, because of that, other teams could swoop in and grab Lewis Koumas on a loan deal for this upcoming season. Of course, Sheffield United and Norwich City, who else but them two, are also reportedly pushing to try and get a deal done. And Liverpool are likely to want a loan fee paying for Koumas, which is, of course, backing into the favour of Hull City, not getting him at the moment until this appeal process has come to some sort of conclusion and we can actually see what state we're in. But that's a bit of an update news on transfers. A little bit of another update surrounding sort of training-wise, and that being new academy signing Cathal McCarthy, of course, signed back in February deadline day for the Tigers in the academy, a young Irish defender. He, of course, hasn't gone away with the academy side, so I believe they went to Croatia or somewhere abroad for their pre-season training camp. He's decided to stay at home and been in the senior camp at Cottingham. So an interesting one there with Cathal McCarthy. It seems to be quite a young, promising one, him, based on what I've read before the deal was even made from Hull City. So shall we go into the big, chaotic landslide that is Hull City, Acun Ilıcalı, and the entire farce that is Hull City football at the moment? In the latest Athletic article, this one came out earlier on today, and of course raised loads more red flags because of what we said in the argument. And all sorts. So Philip Buckingham released this article pretty much slap bang this morning. The title of the article was "Inside Hull City's Crisis: Missed Payments at the Brain Team and an Uncertain Future." Well, that's certainly a grabby title, isn't it? So shall we go through a little bit of the headliners of this article, and we'll fully break down what was said in this article by Philip. So Acun Media have explored talks over selling Hull City and are willing to listen to offers. Now, that's the big heading there straight away for Hull City fans, is that Acun Media, of course, the parent company of Acun Ilıcalı. That's where Hull City are managing to pay for all of these things at the moment because the club is losing so much money. Acun Ilıcalı is taking loans out of Acun Media and sort of not wanting them to be paid back at the moment. And so Acun Media officially own Hull City, with Acun Ilıcalı being the major sort of owner, being the only owner, I believe. And so that's sort of the ownership situation, and they're looking to sell on. Of course, that'll be coming straight through from Acun Ilıcalı. City have approached several clubs over delaying future commitments of almost £22 million owed for transfer fees. So that's going to like Blackpool and say, now we owe you so much because of the Kyle Joseph deal in January. Can we pay you a little bit more later on? Because a lot of these transfer deals nowadays don't go on, right, Hull City will send the £3 million owed to this club straight away when the player arrives through Hull City's doors. No, it'll be a little bit of a situation where it's you pay so much every month or something like that. Pay so much now, pay so much later. A little bit similar to sort of paying for your Netflix subscription. So that's quite a lot of how transfer deals are done nowadays, and to say that £22 million is owed in transfer fees in Hull City are looking to delay them. Of course, that's not coming this month. We reported that in the video yesterday or the day before, I believe, that Hull City are fine this month. They have nothing else to pay for this month in sort of to other clubs or transfer fees wise. So that is upcoming £22 million owed, presumably next month. Ehab Alam is still owed $3 million as well from the club, and this is all due to the sale of Jared Bowen to West Ham. Of course, that happened during Ehab Alam's and the Alam sort of era at Hull City, and that because of the sell-on clause to West Ham, and that West Ham have done so well with him. Bowen's done so well at West Ham. It's been a case of, because he's gained so many international caps, so many goals, probably the European trophy as well feed into this one. West Ham have had to pay Hull City a further £3 million, which then should have gone to the Alams. It's not 100% sure if this is the case. Of course, we don't know the full stakes behind sort of selling the club to Acun, what the Alams sort of clause was there, whether because of these outstanding fees that probably would be coming into the club, whether it would be going to the Lambs or going into Acun or just going into the club. It's not 100% sure on that one. The general consensus is that money probably would have gone back to the Lambs, and of course, who really wants to give the Lambs money in a Hull City capacity, considering, yeah, it's another poor ownership, isn't it? But it's still money that's owed, and that if it is owed to the Lambs and Acun is holding on to it, well, that's not a rightful place. It was stated in the article, though, that the Lambs were sort of asked for a bit of an input in the article, and they declined any requests, and there was a big sort of statement saying that the deals of the ownership is very confidential, blah blah blah. Please don't get involved, blah blah blah. So that's another fun little footnoter. But the article was quite extensive one, so I'd definitely say sort of go and have a little read it through from the Athletic. Sort of details what we know up to this point, of course, through the fee restriction that we're currently in, the two embargoes that we've dodged our way out of. The Athletic can also sort of reveal some new sort of things. So, of course, £22 million owed. We said £3 million owed to Ehab Alam. Several clubs have been approached to delay transfer payments, and some suppliers as well have been forced to pursue the club for outstanding money. We know about this already. We talked about this earlier on in the week, where there is sort of suppliers looking at six-figure fees that Hull City owe them, and they might be looking to press on with legal matters, of course, taking the issues to court, and beyond that, who knows what could happen. But another big line here. In financial documents seen by The Athletic dated the end of May, Hull still had 21.8 million of future transfer commitments. Of course, that's presumably round up to the 22 million. So, of course, that's up to the end of May. We're now into July, so it's unsure whether all that sort of transfer fee commitments is still true. A lot of sort of things in this article is sort of backdating a little bit, so it's a bit hard to sort of see what the current state of things are. We do, of course, know that the lawyers surrounding Hull City are somewhat confident in the appeal process. So a lot of sort of what the lawyers will have is current information. So whether that is helping into sort of Hull City's sort of stakes in the appeal process. Article went on to go and sort of express about Hull City changing managers so often. Sort of the expenses of the club. A little line here I'll read. These were expenses mistakes on top of cost base that soared in the past 3 years. The player's wage bill has climbed from 8.6 million in the 2021-22 season, of course, halfway through that season, Acun Ilıcalı took over, to 27.4 million last season, comfortably more than revenues. Hull City losing money through wages, and we've known that for so long, which were the last published at 21.4 million 2023-24. Of course, we'll get last season's figures later on in the year, and that being Mohamed Baloumi 4.5 million, Elliot Matazo 3.5 million, Charlie Hughes 3.5 million as well, and Abu Kamara 3 million as well there to Norwich. So we're all signings last season that pushed up the wage bill. So that wage bill is probably going to go up a bit, of course. Selling away does balance it out, but we won't really know until the new published article is stated on what the fees are at Hull City in the background. But we do know for certain that the fees that Hull City are having to pay is in wages and fees to different other clubs is far greater than what the club is intaking, and therefore basic business knowledge, it's an unhealthy balance. If you're spending more than you're gaining, well, nothing's going to work with that. I mean, it's not even a business practice, that's just a basic human practice. If you spend more than what you've got, well, you're in big trouble. And that seems to be the case with Hull City. Of course, we have this sort of back pocket of money through Acun Ilıcalı, through Acun Media, that he is using to offset the balance. And I believe it's somewhere in the region. It said somewhere later on in the article of about... where is it? I can't find it. It was something about 30 million, I think, that... Acun is sort of owed. So if Hull City were then to sell on the club, it would be a case of that Acun would be looking to get that money back. James Hogarth put out a bit of a little tweet thread. Both Mike and I, of course, Mike White, we talked about him from Humberside Sport as well, looked into the rumours of money owed to Ihab Alam earlier this year. We were told, as per Phil's article, the article that we've just been referring to, most was bonus / clause related. It's my understanding some of them have also gone now based on promotion. I understand West Ham have paid Hull City the 3 million. Presumably they have, otherwise they'd be under some sort of transfer embargo fee restriction as we are. But it was spent on other matters. As for fan speculation of an Ihab Alam return to Hull City, of course that's not something we really want. Ownership or a senior role, more than one source made it abundantly clear that that was a non-starter. The Alam family were just happy to support the club as fans these days. Of course, Ihab Alam is sort of the primary member of the Alam family now that Assem Alam has sort of passed away. I believe it was last year. So it's presumably not going to be a case of the Alams making a return to Hull City. That was maybe a little bit of a worry, certainly during the early stretches of Acun's era, because Acun Ilıcalı was happy to have them involved in capacities in this sort of early period. We haven't seen them too much involved in the club at the moment, and it seems like that's all been put to bed. Here we are. I've got it here. I found it. There is not a desperation to sell, but there is willingness to listen to offers for a club bought for 20 million 3 years ago. Any prospect of the sale would hinge on Ilıcalı's stance on the debts of 60 million owed to Acun Media by the club. So that's 60 million pounds already in the 3 years that have been offset. 60 million pounds of money that's been spent more than it's been gained in, and that's the difference. Of course, loads more money's been spent and far less has been taken in. Of course, the club is have the stadium, but we do not own the stadium, MKM Stadium. It's built by Hull City Council in 2002. It's still operated by Super Stadium Management Company and owned by the local authority, Hull City Council. So that, of course, is a bit of a withdrawal there from various people looking to sort of buy into an English club. Because we don't own the stadium, it's a lot less sort of fee, that sort of a lot less money that a potential buyer would be gaining. Acun Media isn't actively looking to sell the club. This is a a quote from someone. But naturally, there is a huge demand for English football clubs, so there will always be interest from other parties, especially after the investment we have put into the club, said a club spokesperson. Our chairman told fans the club is losing money and he is supporting when required. The club will always have his full backing whenever it's needed. But of course, we said time and time again, his back pocket can only last so far. He needs some sort of endorsers in some capacity to provide extra money into the club, or B, he's going to have to sell the club, and it's sounding more and more likely as the days pass on, with more and more money getting taken out of from Acun Ilıcalı and Acun Media put into the club, because the club is constantly losing money. It's more and more looking likely that he'll have to sell, because no investors are willingly going to come into the club and go, yeah, I'll go and dump down a couple billion that I'm probably not going to get back. I wonder why the McVitie's deal evaporated so quick, and all these other sort of potential people that were coming in to help out financially over the past few years. Murat Ulka, of course, with the McVitie's deal, and so many others. They just disappeared so quickly, presumably because once they got down to the business aspect, they saw the behind the scenes look at things and saw this club's losing about £500,000 a week. We've seen in reports previous. Of course, that might change with the latest accounts. But the club losing so much money behind the scenes, week in, week out. If I invest so much, speaking as a business person, if I invest so much money into this club, I'm not gonna see that return back, am I? Or I'm not gonna see it as a profitable investment. A, they probably won't get the money back anyway, and B, if they did get the money back, would they get their sort of interest, their extra money on top, of course, for being an investor? Probably not. And then that's sort of from an Acun Ilıcalı ownership point of view. If you're an owner and you're not paying back your investors, well, then they can take legal action on the club as well, presumably. I mean, I'm not 100% clued up on sort of club economics like that, but presumably they can. Hull's greatest problems, back to the article here, Hull's greatest problems are in the short term. If they're unable to lift the EFL spending restriction, a squad that only scored 44 goals last season, the lowest in the division, is in desperate need of attacking reinforcements, but the danger is only that free transfers and loans will be permitted before the transfer window closes on September 1st. Ilıcalı might be ready to go again alongside Yakirovic, but the EFL currently see problems that cannot go unchecked. That's sort of how the article ended, and I mean, it just adds more fuel to the Acun outfire, more fuel into the worrying times at Hull City Fire. I mean, I know so many people that sort of overlooked Hull City's situation when the reports were coming out last week and early on this week about the embargoes, fee restrictions, going, it's just a deluded ownership sort of model. It's an owner that's trying to run a club as if he's got this multi-million-pound sort of empire club. He's got this. It sounds a little bit similar to someone going into like Manchester City, we'll say, and taking over their ownership and going, I'm going to run this like this big empire. Well, that might work at Man City, but at Hull City, it's a singular club in Hull, in Kingston upon Hull, in East Yorkshire. It's this one sort of club. It's not this multi-billion-pound empire. And if you run an EFL club, not even just Hull City, an EFL club as a multi-billion-pound empire, well, then it's going to quickly fall away, because them assets aren't incoming for you to then spend or flaunt about, say that it is this sort of multi-billion-pound empire. And it's just going to quickly vanish. It's quite worrying, to be honest, that there seems to be sort of no way out at the moment. Whenever we've had these sort of problems in the past with Acun, and we've gone, okay, players were paid a little bit late, a few days late. Well, that's okay. Offshore account problem, that got paid. Whenever we've seen other problems with Acun in the past and gone, it's okay. That there's a way out of it. It's been that's dealt with. It's happened. But because of this growing sort of problem that's surrounding Hull City, there seems to be very few options of a way out, other than selling the club. I've said the two options at the moment is sell the club or get investors. I've said no investors really going to come into the club, so it might be a case that Acun Ilıcalı has to sell the club, and in turn he would then be losing money. He said he's also said from time to time again that it's not about gaining money, but as a sort of a business person, losing £60 million plus, well, that's nothing that you're going to sort of go, just call it my fun 3 years as Hull City owner. No, he's going to be wanting to recuperate some of that. And so then it'll be becoming a little bit of a similar situation to the Alams, where we saw the club on sale for so long, because they were looking for the right buyer to make sure that they gained their money and they gained their profit. And Acun Ilıcalı has an even bigger task, because he bought the club for 22 million. He's 60 million pound in debt. I make that in my quick maths, 82 million pounds, and he'll probably be looking to gain a bit of money on top of that. So he'll be probably trying to sell Hull City maybe close to 100 million pounds. And he said in that sort of open letter to the fans earlier in the week that this squad is worth 100 million pounds. Well, we've said at the time we don't think it is, and what owner or what potential owner will be looking at Hull City going, yeah, I want to spend 100 million pound on this, inherit all these problems that are currently going on, try and fix them, and then at the end of it make a winning squad, make a successful team that can survive for years and years to come. Well, that certainly wouldn't happen. So it's a big crisis that Hull City are in, and I mean, the article titled it brilliantly, Inside Hull City's Crisis, because it certainly is a bit of a crisis at the moment. Of course, I keep saying everything Hull City here on the HullCityFanCentral YouTube channel, everything sort of behind the scenes, all this sort of economical jargon that's going on behind the scenes with Acun Ilıcalı, the embargoes, fee restrictions, everything, including all the transfer news that could possibly be coming if this embargo, the fee restriction is lifted due to the appeal. Of course, I'll keep you updated on all of that, plus so much more here on the HullCityFanCentral YouTube channel. So I'll see you in the next video by liking and subscribing. Up the Tigers!